Hello, everybody, and welcome back to College Basketball Courtside. This is Mitch, and today we have the top 5 teams in the SEC for the 2025-2026 season. We're going to get straight into it, you guys. The SEC has a ton of talent. They sent 14 teams to the tournament last year. Can they do that again this year? We shall see. But here's the top 5, starting with number 5, Alabama. Nate Oates' squad returns after a 28-9 season. They finished 3rd in the SEC last year in the regular season. Let's see how they stacked up team stats-wise. Starting with their points, 90.7, first in the conference. You'll see that's going to be a trend here. Rebounds, 42.4, first in the conference. Assists, 17.2, first in the conference. Field goal percentage, 48.4, first in the conference. You can see what Nate Oates stresses to his team. Free throw percentage, 72, 11th in the conference. 3-point percentage, 35.3, which is 7th. They attempted the most threes at 29.8, and they made the most threes at 10.5. You guys, Alabama with Nate Oates is known for run, and shoot. That is all they do. They love to get up a ton of threes. They run super hard. They crash the glass, as you can see. They lost, though, Mark Sears, point guard, All-American lefty last season. He was unbelievable. Great Alabama career for him, but he takes off. He graduated. Then you lost Grant Nelson, the center power forward, really athletic, did a lot for them. Was kind of a do-it-all player, big lanky forward. And then you lost Big Clifford O, the center, big man in the middle. He transferred from Rutgers, played for the Tide last year, and was fantastic in the middle. As you can see with the rebound numbers, they were great last season. But they did add some good key players. They obviously lost a ton with Sears and Nelson, but they got some good guys back. Jaleel Bethea, guard in Miami, had an underwhelming season with Miami as a freshman, but he was a highly touted recruit, 5-star prospect. He was known as the best shooter in his class. Let's see if he can turn it up this year at Alabama. They also got Taylor Bowen, center from Florida State. He is a monster defensively inside. I think he's going to be huge for that defense, kind of take over that big Clifford O position. And then you also bring in Noah Williamson, center for Bucknell, Patriot League Player of the Year, averaged 17.6, 7.6 rebounds, 1.1 blocks per game. I think he's going to have an awesome year. What a good pickup by the Tide. But here's who I think is going to start for them. Starting at point guard, LeBaron Philon. Yep. He comes back for a sophomore season, had a good freshman year. I think he's going to be a star in the SEC this season. At shooting guard, Aiden Holloway started his career at Auburn. Now he's at Alabama, kind of a knockdown shooter. You know, that's his specialty is 3-point shooting. He comes back. Jaleel Bethea, I think he's going to start at that small forward position. Taylor Bowen, who I just talked about from Florida State, I think he's going to start at either power forward or center. And then Noah Williamson, the Patriot League Player of the Year from Bucknell, I think he's going to start, again, center or power forward. It doesn't really matter. Those two are pretty interchangeable. I think that Williamson will probably play the center position because of his rebounding, though. But how can they win the SEC? Here's a couple of reasons why I think they can win the SEC. Number one, Bethea breaks out into the shooter that he was recruited for. He becomes a knockdown shooter next to Philon, next to Holloway. They make a ton of threes this season, just like last year where they finished 3rd in the SEC, and they were a really good, hard-to-beat Alabama team. That's how they can win the SEC this year and have a great season. And then also the offensive attack still has enough juice paired with the defense. Williamson's a good defender. Taylor Bowen's a great defender. Philon's a great defender. You know, I think that they still have enough juice even after losing Sears and Nelson, they were a huge part of the offense last season, and Youngblood. They replaced them. But I think their defense might be a little bit better. We shall see, but that's how they can win the SEC. Now, how can they fall lower on this list, or how can they not exceed expectations? I think, first of all, they're not going to have the best player on the floor in almost every single game. Who's their best player? Probably Philon, I would say. Maybe Holloway on the right night, but he's pretty streaky. He's just kind of a pure scorer. I think Philon's probably their best player, but he's not going to be the best player in a lot of games. That's how they can lose. And can anyone get to the hoop except for him? Holloway, he loves to shoot threes. He had a monster game, 26 points last year, but 24 of them came from the behind the arc. So can anyone else get to the hoop? Can anyone else create their own shot going downhill? The big guys, they don't really have a ton of self-creation themselves like Grant Nelson did, where he could catch and kind of rip through, go to the hoop, dunk on somebody, and had a lot of skill to his game. So that's how they can struggle. I think their backcourt defense might struggle as well. Again, Holloway, Bethea, not known for being A+ defenders. Philon's a good defender, but I think they're going to struggle defensively on the perimeter. But that brings me to number 4, Arkansas. They reload this year. John Calipari brings in a good squad. Last season, they finished 22-14. They were 9th in the SEC. Points-wise, they were 76.8, which is 11th. 35.6, which is also 11th. Assists, 14.2, 7th. Field goal percentage, 46.2, which was 8th. Free throw percentage, 73.9, which is 5th. 3-point percentage, 32.7, which is 11th. 3 points attempted, 21.5, 13th. 3-pointers made, 7, 13th. So you can see based on those stats, you guys, they don't really love to shoot threes. I don't think they really had a shooter last year. DJ Wagner's not a great 3-point shooter. Adu Thiero, who they lost, who I'll cover in a second, didn't really bring a lot from the perimeter. He was more of a downhill guy, go to the hoop guy. He was fantastic at it, but didn't really shoot the three all that well. So I think Arkansas, from last year to this year, here's why I think they bring. But first, I'm going to cover their key departures who left. I referenced him, Adu Thiero. He went to the NBA, fantastic slasher, super athletic, great defender. They lose him. He was an automatic bucket when he got to the hoop. They also lost Boogie Flynn. He went to Florida. He was a great freshman, high recruit. He got hurt last year, but when he was healthy, he led the team in assists, could get his own shot. Shot 45% on catch and shoot threes, but struggled in other areas. But they lose him. He was fantastic. And they also lose Jonell Davis. He graduated. He was at FAU, Florida Atlantic, with Dusty May when they made the Final Four a couple years ago. He was a solid shooter, a veteran. He played great end of the season, averaged 20 a game towards the end, but they lose them. But they bring in some great additions, starting with Darius Acuff, 5-star point guard from Detroit, Michigan, but he transferred to IMG. Now he's a freshman at Arkansas. He's a classic John Calipari 5-star guard. He's a top 5 recruit in the country, number 1 point guard. I think he's going to be fantastic this year. They bring in Malik Ewin, forward from Florida State, averaged 14.2 points, 7.6 rebounds. I think he's going to have a good year. And then also Nick Pringle, another big guy they bring in, more of a true center, where Malik is kind of a power forward, maybe big, small forward. But Nick Pringle, center from South Carolina, just rock solid. Finishes inside, sets hard screens, can rebound well, defends the paint at a pretty good clip. So he is pretty solid. I think he might start for him. So I think the point guard's going to be Darius Acuff, though. I think DJ Wagner comes back at shooting guard. Carter Knox comes back after testing the NBA waters for a little bit. He came back, small forward. Power forward, Trayvon Brazil. He's the power forward. He started last year. And then Nick Pringle, center. But how can they win the SEC? What's going to push them to the top? How can John Calipari have his best season as the Arkansas head coach? I think it's going to be they have much more depth than last year. They're pretty top heavy with the Adu Thiero, with Boogie Flynn. They're gone, but I think they bring in more depth. You have Malik Thomas, 5-star small forward. He's going to be a freshman. He's fantastic. Malik Ewin, if he doesn't start, he's going to be fantastic off the bench. And, whether it's Ewin, Brazil, Pringle, whoever doesn't start, they're going to be fantastic off the bench. They also have Billy Richmond back. He's super talented. I think he's going to bring a ton off the bench as well. They're just deep at a lot of positions, and I think it's really going to help them. And DJ Wagner and Acuff, if they can be true Calipari guards, which I think Acuff really can be, and if Wagner takes, another little step, I think they can have a fantastic backcourt, a really hard to guard backcourt as well. But how can they not win the SEC? What's going to hold them back? I think, first of all, perimeter shooting is going to be another issue like last year. Acuff's a good shooter, but is he going to be, 40% on 7 or 8 attempts? Is he going to be 35% on 7 or 8 attempts? We don't know yet. Wagner, we know he's not fantastic at shooting. So how are they going to be at perimeter shooting this year? I think they might struggle. Also, a lot of new faces can make a lot of things difficult. It's a classic Calipari team, new guards coming in. They do have a lot of new pieces in play for this season. I think that could hold them back to start, but let's see how that chemistry goes for the season. But I think they're going to have a really good year at Arkansas. But that brings me to my number 3 team in the SEC, Auburn. They had a fantastic year last year. My pick to win the national championship. I was obviously wrong, but they were 32-6 in a loaded SEC last year. Super talented. They were first in the conference. Last season, they averaged 83 points, which was 5th, 37.4 rebounds, which is 6th. Assists, 16.1, which is 3rd. They shot it at 47.6%. That was 4th. 72.7% from the line. That was 10th. And then they hit the 5th most threes. They shot threes at the 5th best percentage at 35.9. They attempted the 6th most threes at 25.2. And they made the 9th most threes at 9 per game. We all know who they lost, right? Let's get into it. They lost Janai Broome. top 2 player in the country last year with Cooper Flagg. He was fantastic. Had a couple of different colleges before coming to Auburn, really finding his place, but he was great offensively. He was great defensively. Just one of the best players in the country on the best team. He was fantastic. They lose him. They lose Chad Baker-Mazara. He goes to USC. He's on his 6th team, it feels like, in as many years. But he was very solid last year for them. And they also lose Miles Kelly. He was a sniper from 3. He was the true catch-and-shoot guy who spaced the floor super well. So they lose some really big names, especially John Broom. Again, he was one of the best players in the entire country, SEC Player of the Year. But they bring in some really good talent this year. They bring in Keyshawn Hall, guard from UCF. He's in my top 10 SEC players in the this year video. He averaged 18 a game last year. He's a big guard. He's just a bucket. He's going to be really good next to Tahad Pettiford. They bring in Keyshawn Murphy, forward center from Mississippi State. He's a big body. He's efficient. He's an awesome rebounder. And then that brings me to my starting lineup. Who's going to start for Auburn this year after losing so much talent? You got Tahad Pettiford. We all know him. He's going to be awesome this year. Shifty, quick, explosive, NBA prospect. We love Tahad Pettiford. He's going to start the point guard. Kevin Overton's going to start the shooting guard, I believe. Keyshawn Hall, the small forward. Those two are pretty interchangeable. Doesn't really matter where they play, but those are going to be the other shooting guard and small forward. Filip Jovic, freshman, coming from KK Megabasket, Serbia's top league. I think he's going to be fantastic. He brings a lot of skill at that power forward spot, can stretch the floor, put the ball on the ground. I think he brings a lot to them. And then Keyshawn Murphy at the center position, he's going to have a great year as well. But how can they win the SEC? I think with Tahad Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall, they have 2 of the best bucket getters in the entire conference. They have the best backcourt in the entire conference, potentially. They are fantastic, super talented. Can they put it together? Can they play well together? That will make them win the SEC, I believe. But they also have a good blend of size and skill. Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall to bring all the skill. Keyshawn Hall is also really tall, 6'8", about 230 pounds. He's a big guard. And then they have Keyshawn Murphy, who's a monster inside. So good blend of size, good blend of skill. That's going to really help them. But what's going to hold them back? How are they not going to the SEC? How are they going to fall down on this list? I think for the first one, tons of roster turnover, including their coach. Pretty surprising move that Bruce Pearl left after such a great season. I didn't see it coming at all, but he hands the keys to his son, Stephen Pearl. He already signed a big extension for the Tigers, so they plan on keeping him around for a while. How is he going to do in his first year as the head coach, and how are these new players going to gel together? They also won't be even close to as good defensively. Miles Kelly is a great defender. Chad Baker-Mazara is a great defender. Janai Broom was an All-American defender, it felt like. They were fantastic. Derek Caldwell, all-time leader in Auburn wins. He was the center for the last 5 years. He was terrific in his career as a defender, as a rebounder. So how are they going to be defensively? I don't think as good. That's going to really hold them back. But that leads me to my number 2 team in the SEC, Kentucky. I am super excited for this Kentucky team. They were 24-12 last season, 6th in the SEC. They averaged 84.4 points, which is 3rd, 38 rebounds, 4th, 16.9 assists, that was 2nd, 48.2 field goal percentage, that was 3rd, 73.1 free throw percentage, 7th, 3-point percentage. They led the conference at 37.5. They attempted the fifth most threes at 25.3, and then made the 3rd most amount of threes at 9.5. Now, who do they bring in? Who do they lose from last year to this season? Starting at center, the big man Amari Williams, the lefty. He had a lot of good guard skills, would bring it up sometimes. Fantastic rebounder, good interior defender, averaged a good amount of blocks. He was fantastic inside for them last year, averaged about 10.5 points a game, around 7 rebounds. Is a pretty solid big man who also brought some ball handling, so they lose that this year. They lose Kobe Brea, probably the best 3-point shooter in the country last season. He goes to Phoenix. I think he's in a great career in the NBA being that spot-up shooter, but he was a sniper all in his career. And then Jackson Robinson, a good athlete who got hurt last season, 2nd on the team in scoring behind Otega Owe before he got hurt. They lose him as well, which is a big loss because he was fantastic before he got hurt. But who do they bring in? I think they bring in more than they lose, honestly, but it depends on health, and that starts with Jaden Quintains. You'll see him in my top 10 video if you go watch that. He's a center, from Arizona State. He's only a sophomore. He was too young to go to the draft last season. He would have been a for sure first-round pick. Now he's a top 5 prospect in this NBA draft. He's a monster on the inside, super physical, best interior defender in the entire country. However, he's going to be out for the first couple months. Probably not going to be back until late December or January. But he is fantastic for them. He's going to be the big man inside. But they also bring in Jalen Lowe from Pittsburgh. He was their guard. He was their leading scorer, averaged about 17 points per game, just a little bit under. And he's going to bring a huge boost on the offensive end for them. So who's going to start for them? Who's going to be their guys this year for the Kentucky Wildcats? And Mark Pope, it's going to be Jalen Lowe. He's going to start the point guard position. Otega Owe, he's fantastic. We know he's a SEC Player of the Year candidate. Probably going to be a even Naismith Player of the Year candidate. He's awesome. Denzel Aberdeen, he comes over from Florida. He was a key sixth man for them, or sixth and seventh man for them with Thomas Hall, but he was a great defender. He's going to start small forward position for them. Mohamed Diabate, he's going to be the power forward for them. Just another solid power forward, really physical, really strong. And then the center position, Brandon Garrison is going to start for now, and then Jane Quintains is going to start once he comes back and he's healthy. Maybe they slide Garrison down to the power forward. I'm not quite sure. I think they probably keep Diabate and then just bring Garrison off the bench, but we'll see. But how can they win the SEC? Let's get into that. They're the best player in the conference, I think, in Otega Owe. If you go watch my video, put him at number 1, spoiler alert, but he is fantastic. I think he's the best player in the conference without a doubt. And so having the best player always helps you. And if they can get Quintains healthy, they're going to have the best duo in the entire conference because Otega always going to score, and Quintains is going to block every shot known to man. He's going to rebound the ball. He's going to dunk on everybody. He's fantastic. And they have a fantastic backcourt. Jalen Lowe, Otega Owe are great. But how are they going to lose? Can Jane Quintains be back healthy? You know, is he going to have a good season? He just tore an ACL. He's a big body. He puts a lot of weight on those knees. Is he going to come back with that same bounce and lift that he had as a freshman at Arizona State? We have no idea yet. And then are they also going to have enough scoring from the front court? You know, Jane Quintains, he's really good, but he's not going to give you, 15 a game. Garrison, Diabate, not really scorers, more dirty work guys. They can finish pretty well, but not going to give you a ton of points per game. They're really going to rely on their backcourt. But the number 1 team in the SEC this season, you guys, it's going to be Florida. Reigning national champions. They were 24-2. They finished 6th in the SEC last year. They were 84.8 points per game, which is second. 41.8 rebounds a game, second. 15.5 assists, fourth. 47.1 shooting percentage, that was fifth. 9th in the conference in free throw percentage at 72.8. 6th in three-point percentage, 35.6. 2nd in three-pointers attempted, and 2nd in three-pointers made, 27.4, and about 10 three-pointers made per game, respectively. But who do they lose? We all know Walter Clayton. He went to the NBA, started at Ionia, went over to Florida. He was awesome. My favorite player, probably in college basketball last season. He was so fun to watch. He was a bucket getter, not unanimous, but he was an All-American guard. He was fantastic. They also lose the other backcourt mate, Elijah Martin. He goes to the NBA, physical guard. He averaged 14.4 points per game. Straight dog, physical, dunked on people, got the crowd hype. They lose him as well. But they bring in some good guards to replace them. First, Boogie Flynn from Arkansas. I just referenced him when I talked about Arkansas. He's healthy. He's super shifty. McDonald's All-American. He is awesome. I think he's have a fantastic start to his sophomore season at Florida and a fantastic finish to his season. They also bring in Xavion Lee from Princeton. He's a fan favorite, electric guard, tons of versatility, put up a couple triple doubles at Princeton. He's a great shooter off the dribble, going to take part of that Walter Clayton position, and we know that Boogie Flynn can shoot it really well on the catch and shoot. So I think that they're kind of interchanged between point guard and shooting guard, just whoever is feeling it that night from three and whoever's scoring it well. So that's going to be the backcourt. Boogie Flynn, Xavion Lee. They also have Thomas Hall. He's going to be awesome this year. He had a really good end of the year last season. Big physical wing, shoots it well, rebounds well, plays good defense. He does the dirty work, hustles. He brings it all. Alex Condon, maybe at the power forward position. Again, the front court is pretty interchangeable as well. But Alex Condon, he led the team in rebounds last season. He's a monster, huge body. He really improved. And then Ruben C. I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name. It's pretty tough, but he's a monster on the inside. They have a humongous front court, and that's how they can win the SEC. They have great skill in the backcourt, I think, with Boogie Flynn, Xavion Lee. They have tremendous size. Thomas Hall is their small forward, 6'9", 225. Condon, 6'11", Rubin, 6'11", 7 feet, just a humongous front court. And like I said, they have a super talented backcourt as well, but how can they lose? It's really hard to repeat. It's really hard to have back-to-back, really good seasons to that caliber of a national champion. So how are they going to keep that standard? How's Todd Golden going to keep them going? Here's what's going to hold them back. There's not going to be enough offense from the front court. Condon and Rubin are really good, but they're more rebounders, hard screen setters. Are they going to be able to score enough? Can Condon get into that 12 points per game range on high efficiency? We shall see. Is Xavier Lee a good enough defender to guard these super talented SEC guards? We're not sure yet. Again, playing Princeton, you're not playing those athletes. You're not playing that kind of competition, but he's really good. I think he's up to the task, but we don't know quite yet. And then are the Gators too big, which is going to affect their foot speed? Is it going to affect their perimeter defense? They have a lot of great size, but what happens if you play a smaller team and their power forward is, more of a big guard? He's going to blow by Alex Condon. What do you do then? Do you take one of the big guys out? Then you lose your advantage. That could hurt them at times. It's going to be very matchup specific. I think Todd Golden's going to do a good job of figuring out who to play when based on their matchups, but they're going to keep their size to their advantage. But you guys, that is my top 5 teams in the SEC for this upcoming season. Tons of talent in the SEC. I think it's going to be such a hard-fought battle. Honestly, any one of these top 5 teams, if they win, I wouldn't be surprised. Also, have to give a shout-out to Tennessee. They're fantastic. Jacoby Gillespie, he's going to be a first-team All-SEC player, I think. And, Rick Barnes is going to have his team right. So, this is College Basketball Courtside, you guys. That's my top 5 teams for the SEC. Have a great day, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already.